Big Mike here with
He's Entertainment.
today's episode. We got Doug the Thug Smith, the reason the Goon movie was made.
If you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. Let's go.
Hey guys, this is Doug Smith. Yes, Doug the Thug Smith from the Movie Goon. And here I am tonight on the I Only Touch Greatness podcast with my two boys, and I'm looking forward to tonight's show. Thanks for joining us.
Looking for the most beers on tap? Great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say Hayes sent you.
Turn it up. The #1 sports podcast in Vancouver with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike. I Only Touch Greatness podcast.
Clears it out. We got a fight going on. It's our new boy, Doug Smith. Oh, is he working him over? Misiak. Big drop Misiak like nothing. And Doug Smith on high stick. Oh, yeah. Now we got another one going down there. Oh, that's the same one. Smith is in another fight.
That's the guy that I stick in.
Yeah, Goddard now is picking up. Here's Odeline trying to get into it. He's being held off by Drevic. But Misiak really took a beating. Now Misiak wants to fight Odeline. He couldn't handle Smith.
I Only Touch Greatness podcast with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
So the sound you hear is the appearance of Doug the Hammer Smith on the ice and Max Davio on the ice at the same time. These boys, I think this is a foregone conclusion. These two boys are going to drop it in this shift. You can bet a few bucks on it. Smitty would like to get his legs loosened up and get a few skating strides in. He hasn't seen a whole lot of ice time. But you're going to see some fisticuffs here, no doubt about it. These two guys are prowling around like big cats. And there they go! Davio and Smith. Two big heavyweights, both with some good balance. There's Davio with the helmet off. They're both throwing some good punches. Davio holding his ground. There's Smith and Davio. What a scrap we're going to have here. Of course, these two went at it the last time these teams met here, and Smitty got the decision, getting Davio knocked down to his knees with a blow to the forehead. They're still battling out. There goes Smitty with a hand loose, and down they go.
Hey, there he is.
Hey, boys.
Hey,
How's it going?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
I'm Ryan, by the way, and that's Big Mike.
Love it.
Mike, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, boys.
Nice to meet you as well. Your wall looks like mine.
Your face probably doesn't look like mine, though, in some of those pictures.
No.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. Born in Massachusetts, what was life like growing up for you?
I loved Mass. I mean, I originally was born and grew up in the city. Grew up in Quincy, which is just miles from the city of Boston. And then when I was in junior high school, we moved down to kind of the suburbs, small little town called Hanover. So I kind of went from like a city rat to like a country bumpkin, but it was all good. I mean, I loved it, met some good people. And, my high school years were through that small little country town, so to speak. And it's certainly built up today. It's not the way it used to be, 30 years ago, but yeah, my area is a fantastic area.
And Mike,
when did you start? Yeah,
are you seeing that picture over his shoulder? What Canuck one is that there? You got a Canuck one over your left shoulder.
Let's see. Who do I got going?
Right shoulder, yeah.
Gino Ojek.
Oh,
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I love Gino. He was the balls.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. When did you start playing hockey? And did you play any other sports growing up?
Growing up as a kid, I played, youth baseball and stuff like that. I was athletic, but I didn't really excel in one particular sport. And my father was an amateur boxer when he was a kid, into his mid-20s. In fact, he was a paid sparring partner for a professional. So when I got to be like 14, 15 years old, he kind of started teaching me boxing, and I picked it up at a gym in my area and, did a lot of amateur boxing, fought in our areas, New England Golden Gloves and the tournaments like that. But the hockey really didn't come until late. In fact, I was out of high school. I hadn't really played any hockey my whole life. I had probably put on skates as a kid 4 or 5 times at a pickup hour, like the local rinks will have like an open ice for an hour,
Yeah.
I'd stumble around as like a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, but I never played hockey. So hockey didn't come into my life until almost 20 years old. And my first organized hockey game really didn't come until I was 21.
Who's your favorite sports franchise?
Well, I'm kind of partial to the Boston area. So, I like the Bruins and I love the Patriots. I'll probably get booed right off your show, but, I love Tom Brady. I think he's great. I know he's a whiner, but, he's a hell of an athlete. And, he certainly proved it again this year, going down to Tampa and winning it all. So
he knows how to win, that's for sure.
And this year I was actually cheering for him because he wasn't on the Patriots, but.
Right. And
both my teams hate Boston. I'm a Seahawks and Canucks.
I was going to say, because your Seahawks got stunned in the last seconds of that Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
That's a tough call.
Thanks for reminding me.
Well, that's a tough call because, Coach Carroll, we had him here, and he's a great coach.
Yeah.
And, let's face it. Do you really give the ball to the running back, Marshawn Lynch, who's a wrecking ball, to go 2 or 3 yards for a touchdown? Or do you do what they do and try to throw that crazy slant pass, which usually always works? It really always works, that slant pass. The one guy gets behind the other guy and it's right there for him. And somehow the Patriots kind of stepped up and intercepted it. But you must have wanted to hang yourself after that game.
Yeah, thanks for running back the whole way through and taking your time explaining that for it. Because
I remember it was like yesterday. It was awesome.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
I still don't sleep.
Did you fight in your first game, by the way, as a 21-year-old?
My first organized hockey game was kind of a summer league. And it was just all about, I was trying to learn to play the game, of course, but this particular league really wasn't much fighting in it. I knew what I wanted to do. The objective, the goal was to be a fighter. But first I had to learn to just skate and keep my balance. And, when I was 21 at 6'2", 250 pounds, there was a lot of work ahead of me. No doubt about it.
Do you have a favorite sports hero?
That's a tough one. I'm partial to hockey fighters just because I always looked up to a lot of those guys. And as a kid growing up, I loved guys like Nick Fatiu and Paul Stewart and guys that were local to me, Jay Miller, and, a lot of Bruins guys were great. And so to have one particular guy, I even loved boxers because I was an amateur boxer. So I was kind of all over the place, to be honest with you.
Last night we had on Milan Lucic.
Yeah,
you obviously know who that is.
The fans kind of got tired of him for some reason here because he really wasn't playing. He kind of relaxed. He wasn't playing a physical role like he was known for.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't dropping the gloves. And now you see him up in Calgary, and Jesus, he's running guys through the boards. He's fighting every other night, and the Boston fans are like, why can't we get a guy like that? And it's like, Yeah, you had him and you booed him right out of town.
Yeah, and that happens. That happens.
It does.
I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him in a Canucks uniform one day.
Yeah, I mean, he's still playing really good hockey, and I don't know how many years he's got left, especially in the role that he plays. I mean, he could go down anytime physically because he plays such a physical game. But I mean, the aspect of that game is slowly but surely disintegrating from the NHL, but there's still guys like him. I mean, if you've got a guy like him or Ryan Reeves or Tom Wilson or Matt Martin, or the Bruins have Kevin Miller, there's only a few of those guys left. And if you don't have one, all of a sudden you're starting to realize, this whole swing of skilled finesse hockey that we thought was going to take place a couple of years ago and the tough guys and the physical role was going to be eliminated really isn't.
No. And Curtis Gabriel is another one we had on the show, and he's another guy that will step up to the plate and fight anybody as well.
Right. And I'm sure he's fought Lucic many a times. So I think they're in that same division, or they're out west or whatever it is. And I mean, he's another tough young kid, big kid.
Yep. What made you want to write your book about the time in the minors?
The book really evolved through my best friend Adam Fratazio, a kid that I grew up with here in Hanover. And Adam, when I first went to the East Coast League, I've said this before, Adam was like my backbone. He was the one that got me on the ice originally way back in the day. He was the one that worked with me and really showed me how to keep my balance when you drop the gloves. And I had the fighting background, obviously, from boxing, but there's a lot more going on the ice as far as balance goes, because if either one of you guys have skated before, it's certainly not as easy as being flat-footed like in a pair of sneakers as it is on blades. And so, when I first went down to the coast and played my first year, I would call Adam literally every single night after a game. And I would tell him, hey, I just fought this guy and I lost, or I did good, or I won, or whatever. And I'd always chase down the film guy who recorded the game and try to get the clip from my fight, edit it out, and I'd put it on a VHS tape and send it up to Adam. And so after a couple of years, Adam said, we really should write a book because, minor league hockey is crazy. And your story is crazy. How far you've made it. You've made it to basically the pro level after only a couple of years of playing organized hockey. It's unheard of. And for me, I never really absorbed it the way the public did, or like Adam or hockey people who are in the know would say, your story is just beyond belief. So, we talked about a book for a couple of years, and then Adam finally just started putting it together from day one to the end. And, we really lucked out. We got it published, and it circulated well. And, certainly we never figured it would go as high and explode the way that it did.
I know you said that Nick Fatu was one of the toughest guys, one of the guys you looked up to. We get that answer quite a bit. I know Tim Hunter said the exact same thing. Like when Nick hit you, you knew you got hit. Who would you say the toughest guy was that you fought?
I know it's cliche. I mean, I could certainly put a name out there with ease, but in all seriousness, every guy I fought was really tough. And again, I've mentioned it before. It's only because I started so late. I was really behind the curve when it came to hockey fighting on a professional level because I didn't really have a background in it. And so every fight that I got into, win or lose, even the ones I won, was still hard for me. And that's just physically, never mind mentally. The mental preparation, if you have any type of a fighting background and you're premeditating a fight from the night before, knowing something's going to go down the next night in that game, or, even as a boxer, you have a scheduled fight coming up in a couple of weeks, you're mentally drained come the fight night because you've already rehearsed this fight 1,000 times in your mind. So, I mean, can I tell you that Frank Bialowas, who I fought in the American Hockey League, in my first American Hockey League game, was the hardest puncher I ever faced? Of course I can. Because for those people who've never seen the cover of my book, it's a beautiful picture of a big shiner and a split on my eye. And I mean, he was like getting hit with a sledgehammer. So, I mean, but in all reality, a lot of those guys really could throw. They were all, NHL caliber fighters. And I was basically a pawn skater.
And one thing that Curtis Gabriel did tell us when we asked him that question is he said he'd rather fight anybody in the AHL. It's a way tougher opponents in the AHL than it was for the NHL for him. Like he says, he'd rather go with Ryan Reeves every night than fight some of the guys in the AHL.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the real tough guys, just for some reason, seem to be buried in the American League. And again, I know we touched on it a minute ago how the game has changed and those guys really aren't getting up top like they used to back in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s. But, you know, he's right, because there are a lot of tough guys down in the minor leagues, and they're getting to stay employed because that style of hockey is still being played.
Yeah.
So he's right. You know, you might fight a guy like Ryan Reeves, who's probably the heavyweight champion of the league right now. And obviously that's a big pill to swallow. But down in the American League, you're probably fighting the 3 nights a week that you're playing because every team has someone looking for you. And that gets old.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I have a question that we usually ask, and it's like, who would play you in a movie? But since that's already happened, so since that's already happened, how did you come up with Stifler or Sean William Scott to play it?
Well, I mean, so first of all, I mean, I really had nothing to do with the script with the movie. I mean, the movie people in Hollywood, you know, long story short, someone had read the book, and it was a guy that's on a writing team in Hollywood. He just writes movies for whoever. And I was told that he saw my book. He saw the cover of the book in an airport. He was taking a flight somewhere. And he said, as soon as I saw the cover, it was titled Goon. And I saw the hockey shirt and the big black eye. And he says, I instantly gravitated to it. I grabbed it. I bought it. And he says, by the time the flight took off and landed, he had finished the whole book. And he had said, you know, we really should make a movie about hockey enforcers. We can use this guy's book that I just read because, you know, hockey enforcers, they've been a part of the game forever. So they bought the rights to the book. I didn't really have a big say in the script, the cast. But I mean, when I found out some of the names of the people that were in the movie, believe me, I was out of my mind crazy. Because, I mean, listen, we all know who Stifler is, and he was awesome in that movie.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got Liev Schreiber, who played Ross the Boss in the movie, and, you know, Eugene Levy. I mean, you got some real class A Hollywood actors that were in this movie. Now, I won't lie to you. The very first time I saw the movie, I definitely was sinking down in my seat watching Stifler supposedly portray me, because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But boy, I'll tell you, I was kind of a little embarrassed the way they built that character up to be such a dipshit. But, you know, Hollywood's Hollywood, right?
Absolutely. Why did they use the name Glatt instead of Smith, out of curiosity?
I don't know the real story. I've kind of heard some, you know, rumors that, you know, Glatt in the movie and the family were Jewish people. Okay. The father was like some kind of a doctor or something, or an attorney, and the son was some big deal. And listen, Jewish people in this world are usually higher ups, right? They're attorneys, they're bankers, they're doctors, they're lawyers. And for this Jewish boy to become a hockey goon and like embarrass his family and waste his chance at making, you know, a big name for himself along with the rest of his family, they just wanted to throw a spin on it. So that's kind of how they went with it, you know?
Okay. After retiring, you worked for the Boston Bruins. Are you currently working for them?
I am currently not. I worked for them for about 8 or 9 years off. I think my first year with them was around 2001 through about 2009 or 10. And, you know, my job was really incredible. I was able to get on the ice with the players. I was basically part of the coaching staff. And it's originally started off just trying to show the European kids and the college kids that don't play rough, tough hockey how to defend themselves. Because, you know, in all seriousness, I always knew I would make a better trainer than I would an actual fighter. I just started so late, but I know what to do. I know in all the situations how to handle myself. I just physically can't do it. where these athletes are incredible and they can do it. They just need to be shown how to do it. So it kind of evolved that way, working with these, like I said, European and college kids that just have no clue what to do if the gloves ever come off. And it really snowballed when the actual fighters for these teams would get together with me, and they almost had like a specialized coach to work with their specialty, which was fighting.
Since it was Boston, did you get to work with Lucic there?
I did not work with Luch. I believe he was already up in Boston. The years I was in Providence, he was never down there. So I never got to see him. But I mean, I certainly got to watch him, and I certainly, studied him in case I ever was asked to come up and maybe work out with him or, whatever. And, and my training and my philosophy was pretty simple. It was all about, learning your balance and learning punching power with both hands, not just being a one-handed fighter. A lot of basic things. And I would just incorporate a lot of boxing from my background into hockey fighting.
So I read somewhere that you were a police officer, or are you still a police officer?
I am. I have a few more years to go before I can retire. And I work in a great town, Hanson, Massachusetts, which is just south of Boston. And, I got a great team of guys and girls that, we all work great together, and we have a really good community. And, let's face it, it's a tough time to be a cop right now, especially in some of the biggest cities across the country.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate to be where I'm at. And, I feel for a lot of the guys that have to go to work every night that have to face what they do.
Another one is Hoist Gracie. He became a cop as well after his UFC.
Right. And, back in the day, like when I first became a cop, it was really honorable and it was prestigious to be a cop. I mean, today, with all that you see that's going on in the news, almost every night there's something going on. It's, you kind of have a bullseye in your back. The public doesn't really want you. And you really have to watch out who you approach and who you talk to, because you never know what their mentality is. So, again, like I said, it could happen anywhere, but I definitely feel comfortable where I'm at in my town. So, again, I feel lucky.
So 2012 Hanover High School Hall of Fame. I dug deep for that one.
Yeah. So I got to coach my school that I graduated from. I was a coach for Hanover, an assistant coach, I should say. And I was there for 21 years. And I worked under the head coach. His name is Jim Sylvia. And Jim's in the Hall of Fame for Massachusetts. And I got elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame for Massachusetts as an assistant coach. We had won the state championship at the Boston Garden. I think we won 3 out of 4. And that's obviously an incredible honor. There's no two ways about that.
Okay.
Of course. How did you call the butterflies before a fight?
Well, like I said, I think you think about the fights more than, the average guy does, especially if you have a background in fighting, because, I hate to say it, but I was always premeditating my fights. I always knew who was on the roster, and I always knew why I was brought in for one game on a Saturday night. Out of the blue, I get a phone call. I know who they want me to take out or go after. So, you certainly have butterflies, but there's not a lot of time for them to really get to you, because before you know it, you're out in the ice and you got to make your move and, do your job.
What's your favorite rink you played in?
Wow, they were all incredible. I got to play for the Johnstown Chiefs in the East Coast Hockey League under Coach Steve Carlson, who was in the movie Slapshot. And that was the War Memorial, which is in the movie Slapshot. That was incredible. And, my first game in the American Hockey League, I got to play in Moncton, the Moncton Hawks Arena, which was just beautiful. I've been pretty fortunate. I've got to see some really nice arenas.
If you could sit down for dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Well, sports oriented, I'm going to tell you something. So there's a guy who recently passed away in my area. He was a boxer. His name's Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Of course. Everyone knows him.
Sure. And he's a legend. And you know what? When I was a kid, when I was like 20, 21, I got to work out at his gym, and I got to meet him. And you know, I never really got to hang out with the guy because he was elite, you know, and I was just a kid. But I mean, that's a guy I would love to sit down with and like just YouTube fights and just have him talk to you about each fight. Not every fight, but you know what I'm saying? The big fights.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like, what was his mentality going in? You know, what did he think about after the fight? Did you win it? Did you lose it? You know, and, you know, I know he got screwed on a lot of things in boxing because of politics. And, you know, but that's a guy I would love to sit down and talk to because he really had a tough, hard road to be a champion.
My guy I always go with is Muhammad Ali. I'd love to pick that guy's brain.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are the salt of the world. You know, everyone loves them. And look what they go through to get the reputation they have. It's incredible.
And then I always say Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I mean, look what he's done, right? Yeah. Self-made billionaire, and look at the sport he's put out. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
What's your what would you say your favorite movie about sports is, other than your own?
I'd have to say Slapshot, and I'd even put Slapshot ahead of mine, to be honest with you. I mean, Slapshot's king if you're into hockey. You know, I mean, it's the original, and you know, I thought my movie was okay. I wish it was a little more realistic. Not that Slapshot was more realistic, but I don't think Slapshot was as corny as mine, you know, on that piece.
And Slapshot almost has that Porky's feel to it, those 80s comedies, you know? They got a sick kind of humor.
Yeah, and like you might miss it the first time, but you watch it the second or third time, you pick up on things all the time.
Yeah, just like Porky's was. Remember that movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I fight all the time on lacrosse out here, and I love it. But I don't know how I could act it. You know what I mean? Like, it must have been hard to act that out too.
Yeah, I mean, for the actors that were there, for me it was okay. I mean, you know, it just was second nature to me to do what I do. But, you know, I watched a lot of the guys like Liev Schreiber and Sean William Scott. And, you know, they had stunt coordinators. They had guys showing them how to square off and how to throw punches. And, you know, and I watched them. The hours they spent doing that before the cameras even started rolling was incredible. The homework that they had to do. So, yeah, I mean, I got to give those guys credit because that's not a field they're familiar with at all.
Can you give us a good fight story of yours?
Geez, I don't know. I mean, you know, like I said earlier, the fight with Bialowas was incredible for me. You know, that was a call that came out of nowhere. About 3 days before that fight, I had surgery. I had a big cyst on my side under my armpit that had to be removed. And they put a drainage bag on my side. It was taped with a hose that was coming out from inside of my stomach, and it was draining the fluid. And I got the call to go to Moncton, and I was talking to Adam, and he was like, you have to go. Like, you have to. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I said, I know, but I just had surgery like 3 days ago, and I got this bag on my side. And he says, well, we'll tape it. We'll tape it around you. We'll use like a roll of tape and make sure it doesn't come off. And I was like, oh my God, I was like horrified thinking about this. Anyway, I said, yes, I'm going up to Moncton, talk to the coach, talk to the scout that called me up, got me up there. I skate warm-ups for the game, go back in the locker room, and I'm like sweating profusely. It probably was between nerves and knowing I've got this bag. And I think the thing that was worrying me is if I get into a fight and my shirt comes off, is that bag going to be exposed? Is it going to get ripped off me? Are people going to see it? Are they going to be like, what is this all about? So I like went in the men's room and went behind the stall door and slowly pulled the tube out of my side and out of my stomach. It turned out to be about 7 inches long. I never knew how long it was. I almost passed out. I almost fainted from watching it. I kept pulling it. I felt like a magician. Pulling a ribbon out of the guy's hat. And it bled for a little while, but I put a shirt over it, and I played literally 10 minutes later and fought Bayer Lois.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It really was crazy. And I don't know if we touched on that in the book or not. We may have a little bit, but just to kind of live it and be in that dressing room and hiding in the stall, trying to get that bag out from inside the incision that was, there was a couple of stitches around it, and trying to pull the tube to break the incision to get it out of me. Oh, I was sitting on the shitter and I was like going to pass out. I couldn't believe what I was doing.
That's crazy. That's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. Yeah. Who knew about it? Any of your teammates, or was it literally just the one guy?
Yeah, no one knew. Just my best friend Adam knew about it. I did have to tell the trainer after the game what happened. He just looked at me and shook his head. He was like, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No, but I couldn't miss my opportunity here. Win or lose the fight, I couldn't say no to this opportunity." I mean, listen, let's face it. I was skating on a pond like 5-6 years earlier, and I'm going to play in the American Hockey League, the second best hockey league in the world. And I'm going to get a chance to fight the heavyweight champion of the league, who literally just got sent down from playing in Toronto. He fought like Ty Domi and fought Tony Twist. And now I have a chance to fight him. And even if I lose, I can still make a name for myself somewhat. So there really was no excuse, even with the surgery, to say no to the opportunity. I would have kicked myself in the ass the rest of my life.
What's the best piece of advice that a coach has ever given you?
The best piece of advice was when Kevin McClellan, Stanley Cup champion for Edmonton, who I was replacing in the lineup in Moncton because he was injured, sat next to me in the locker room before the game and said, "There's a couple of guys that you can fight tonight, but don't fight Frank Bayer Lois." That was the best advice. I just didn't listen to it. And I paid the price for it.
Did you, back then, did coaches ever send you out to fight? Did you ever get the tap on the shoulder or "it's time to go, Doug"?
Absolutely. Yeah. And listen, and don't let anyone else tell you it never happened back in the day. Because listen, that's why I was there. I wasn't there to score goals. I was an insurance policy on the bench, and I would sit a whole game until someone acted up. And, like I said, I already knew going into every game who was the tough guy for the other team. And once he starts running around, all of a sudden, early in the third, late in the second, I'm going to get my first shift all of a sudden. Well, it's obvious why. So, but yeah, I mean, I've had coaches say to me, "Listen, I'm bringing you in for the weekend because I have a couple of guys I want you to go after. And if you're willing to do the job, there's a position for you here." And I never said no to any of them. How could I? It's an opportunity.
That's right. That's right. Any pregame rituals for you?
I used to always try to, on the ice during warm-ups, you have your 10-minute warm-up before the game, and then they do the ice before the real game starts. And I always tried to hide the best I could, so to speak, when it came to my skill level. I didn't really want to skate around. I didn't want to really shoot on the goalie. I would be on a line. I'd probably be on the fourth line. And when my line did a quick drill in and out of the zone to shoot on the goalie, I would quickly try to get the puck over to the guy next to me so he could take the shot. But
yeah.
But one ritual I definitely had all the time was just trying to somehow, and it may not have worked, but in my head I was trying to make it work, was to try and catch up to the other team's tough guy during warmups. And whether that was stretching out on the red line and just trying to catch his attention and maybe have a little conversation. And I used to always just say to him, "Hey, who's your heavyweight? Who's your tough guy on the team?" And, he knows I'm brand new. He's probably already played this team 2 or 3 times. They all read the stats. And when they see, whatever team they're playing brings in Doug Smith, and his resume is this long, all penalty minutes, it's pretty obvious. So I did have a couple of, things that I like to do before games, but I wasn't really, cuckoo over the stuff, Some guys have to put their skates on the same way every way and, put their shirt on a certain way every game. And I wasn't like that.
How close did you get to the – go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, we get a lot of crazy stories sometimes about people and their rituals. And there's some people can really get into it. It's good that you don't know one.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly get caught up in it. And then if your ritual goes down the drain, what does that mean? Your game's going to suck?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
How close did you get to the show? Did you ever have like a call up and then not get in a lineup or anything like that?
I came pretty close. I had a friend of mine who was a scout, and I got a phone call like on a Monday saying that there's a pretty good chance that I might be able to get you up to play Friday night. And the team was Buffalo, and Buffalo's tough guy was out injured. And all Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I probably took, 15 showers and, probably shit my pants 45 times thinking that I'm going to get a real shot here because I believe the guy. And I remember he called me like Wednesday and said, you know what? It's not going to happen after all. The guy you were going to play for kind of passed his little physical, so to speak. He's back in the lineup. But just to be considered, I mean, that would have been like my story is such an underdog story as it is. To get like one game in the NHL would have been mind-blowing to everybody, not just the hockey fight fans, like just hockey fans in general would be like, this kid made it to the NHL, even though he only played one game, yet where'd he come from? Like,
yeah,
that would have been unbelievable.
Through your days, did you ever come across a Wayne Van Dorp?
I knew of Wayne Van Dorp, but I never met him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never met him. I believe when I was playing, he might have been playing too, but he might have been in the IHL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
he's a local legend around here.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely a legend. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
I got to watch him fight my Bruins guy, Lyndon Byers, a couple of different times and some really good fights. And Van Dorp was a big dude too, huh?
Oh, yeah, he still is.
Oh, yeah, still is.
I bet. Yeah.
What's your go-to karaoke song if there's $1,000 prize?
Karaoke really isn't my thing. Jesus, I don't even know. I couldn't even figure out the lyrics to any song. I may have to take a pass on that question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll donate my $1,000.
Yeah, there you go. Mike?
Yeah, did you ever like do a lot of research on the other player that you were going to fight that game? Like, did you actually go into like personal stuff so you got some good chirps before the game?
Not personal stuff like that, but I definitely researched fights. Whether it was VHS hockey fight tapes and stuff like that, or just talking to other tough guys. Hey, tell me about Sammy McCarthy, Sammy Brown, the Harry Brown, whatever. And I would ask them about this. Is he a lefty? Is he a righty? And, you try to get the skinny on a guy all the time. But for me to go into a lot of fights blind would be foolish for me because, like I said, I was already trying to sweep the tide back with a broom. And it was hard enough as it is.
If you could only eat one of these two for the rest of your life, are you eating pancakes or waffles?
Probably take pancakes.
Okay.
Hey, Doug the Thug, I'd love to thank you for coming on, and we really appreciate it. And we love the movie, and we love your story, and it meant a lot to us. And thanks again.
Guys, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And listen, I'm sorry to rain in your parade with Seattle and bringing that bad memory back to you.
Hey, at least we'll hopefully make up for it right now on the draft coming up this week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If you're looking for a mug, perhaps a hoodie, head on over to IOnlyTouchGreatness.com.
Looking for the most beers on tap, great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say Hayes sent you.